Two guys either side of 50 with one dream to achieve middle-aged sporting glory. This is the Missing Links Golf Show. Andy Walker, welcome back to this special edition of the Missing Links Golf Show. It's great to have you.
Yes, very, very excited for this evening's guest appearance. I must admit, someone who I must admit, there's a little bit of self-interest in inviting in inviting this guest onto the show. I have mentioned a couple of times I'm having a few little issues with my high performance center and the launch monitor, the Garmin R10. So yeah, we've our next guest is a bit of an expert in that field.
Or would you call him a techspert?
Well, it could be a techspert. Could be. I like it. Nice play on words.
We might pose that question to him.
Yeah. So yeah, we're looking forward to having a chat and seeing what his level of expertise shall bring, and the information and what I can potentially do in my current setup.
Well, it's funny that you talk about that because I was in the High Performance Center Central West earlier, busted out the Garmin R10 myself.
Yep.
And the numbers were all over the shop.
Yeah.
I was allegedly flushing my 5-iron about 127 meters.
Oh, that's long for you, isn't it?
No. So there's something going on in there.
Yeah. And look, I felt the Garmin R10 was good, well, relatively good, was good enough for short game when I was doing my wedge practice and for distances with the wedge, but I never really had sort of too much confidence in the exact numbers, and certainly when it came to then sort of mid to long irons, I don't think I ever tried it with my driver or fairway, but yeah, I don't think that they were particularly accurate. So then when I moved to Lake Macquarie and set up the High Performance Center Lake Macquarie, given it's a tin shed, effectively, the radar doesn't work that well.
Doesn't seem
so to. I need a new solution.
Well, we hopefully will hear about that. And Pilgrims, we shall certainly hear about all things tech and simulated golf and related topics, I expect, because our guest tonight's certainly got a bit of credibility in that space. So maybe don't leave us hanging anymore, Andy Walker. Who have we got joining us on the show on this episode?
We have Joe Lagowski from Joe Lagowski Golf. He's got his own. He's got a YouTube channel that I watch a lot, and certainly in my looking for a new simulator and just doing a bit of due diligence. He's one that I've got a lot of time for, and yeah, I think he's got a really good perspective and gives great information.
Awesome. Well, I thoroughly look forward to getting him on the show, Andy Walker. What do you think? Shall we do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Pilgrims, here we go.
Strap yourself in. And I'd like to give a very warm welcome to the Missing Links Golf Show to Joe Lagowski. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, great to have you. Now, I'm a avid watcher of your YouTube channel, mainly for the tech side of it, but I know you've also got some simulator golf that you've got up there. But before we get into that side in your YouTube channel, just give us a bit of a rundown on who Joe Lagowski is, where you discovered golf, where you've been, and how you ended up on YouTube being a expert on golf simulators.
Yeah, expert is a term that we use loosely. I guess my story with golf, it began when I was young, when I was a kid, and I actually grew up in Texas and I lived in Texas. I started playing golf there, I guess, really. and then really got into this, really got into golf, wanted to play, tried to play, moved to Australia, did a PGA traineeship in Australia, again, was trying to play professional golf, went back to the States, played in a few events, in pay-for-play events, didn't do very good. So I came back to Australia and I was working as a pro at a golf club. And eventually it got to the point where I just kind of fell out of love with the game. And so I just moved on to something completely different, way outside of golf, and stopped playing golf for 7 years. Fast forward that 7 years, I was in my new workplace, and some of the guys were going and playing golf. They dragged me along, and I fell back in love with it. But now I had kids, and so having kids, I mean, as you guys know, it's really hard to find time to go out for a 4, 5, 6 hour round, especially on weekends, because you've got activities, you've got so many things going on. And so that's when I decided, I had the bright idea to build a golf sim in my garage. And then one thing's led to another, and I have this in my garage now. And like we were just saying, the cars are parked outside. They permanently stay outside. I've got a wall now that I've built at the back of my garage. So, I mean, this is a golf sim for all intents and purposes.
Excellent.
I love
Excellent.
this. I love this story. This is a guy that gets back into golf after a hiatus and goes, you know what? I'm not only just going to play a bit, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the garage into a sim. I'm going to do this for a living. I'm going to start posting videos. Like, you literally have taken the obsession to another level, Joe. That's fantastic. And I think I speak on behalf of all the pilgrims when I say you're an inspiration to us all with that story.
Thank you. Yeah. I guess the simulator for me was something that I thought, how can I still play golf? And I do get obsessed with things when I start it. And how can I still play golf and really practice and get good while having a full-time job, while having a family? And the sim was just the obvious answer. And then I guess I'll get into how the channel started if you guys want.
Yeah.
So the channel, it started with the Garmin R10. So I had the Garmin R10, and I was having interference with my projector. And so working with radar now in the job that I do, I understand Doppler radar, understand how it works, and I understood that I was getting interference from my projector. And so I made a Faraday cage that sat around the projector to kind of block all the signals coming out of it. And it completely got rid of all of the issues I was having with the Garmin R10. And so I was on the forums and I was on Facebook telling people, you know, this is how I fixed it. This is how I fixed the issues. And it got to the point where I was just like, I'm just going to do a video, because it's easier for me to just do a video, put it out there and show people. You know, I had people saying that it was fake and everything. So I did a pretty uncut video of me hitting shots with the Garmin R10 with the Faraday cage off, and showed all the interference, and then put it on, and it was completely fixed. And so that's kind of how the channel started. And then one thing led to another, and I just kept putting out content slowly, and it just kept, increasing and building. And then it got to the point where I partnered with Bayside Golf, who are now a channel partner. And Sam and Bayside have just been absolutely amazing. They've given me just so much access to so many different launch monitors that in Australia, to buy all of these units is astronomical. And so to have access to all these units has just been unreal for the channel. So yeah, that's kind of how it started.
So you do review a lot of tech, but on the simulator golf side, you do play a fair bit of simulator golf, and I did actually look up the Sim Golf Tour rankings, and you're ranked number 4 at the moment on the Sim Golf Tour.
Yeah, so at the moment, I love the simulator golf tour. Anyone that, I mean, like yourselves, like you don't have the time to really play a lot of golf, but you're trying to improve and you're trying to use technology. And this is the one thing that really got me excited is when I left golf, there wasn't really this tech. There wasn't as much tech as there is now. And I think there was TrackMan, but it was very early days. It wasn't that good. What we have access to now as customers is a lot of tech that if you use correctly, and if you get the right people to show you how to use it, you can get better quicker, because you've got metrics now that you can go, oh, that's why I'm hooking it, because my face is closed, and you've got actual data and evidence that shows you why you're doing what you're doing. So that's what got me really excited. But yeah, being competitive, the simulated golf tour was, I mean, I love it. You can play golf events in your garage each week, and you can compete, and you can move up the world rankings. And it's become a bit of a passion and a hobby of mine to try and get to world number one. So I've been trying to do that now for a while. I've been so close. I've been so close, but
You
it's
got to
slipped
number
through my
two,
grasp.
I believe, at one point. Was
Yeah,
it number two? Yeah.
yeah. And it was honestly only about 8 points, which is nothing. I was so close, but the race is still on. Hopefully I can get there one day.
Nice.
So how do these rankings work? Are you playing tournaments, or is this through the, sort of the TrackMan Combine type scenario, or a bit of all of the above?
Yeah, so the simulator golf tour, it runs on the PGA Tour schedule. So each week you'll play 2 rounds, and there's different tours for everybody. So there's a tour. I think that the web tour is for people who don't have 100-mile-an-hour ball speed, and there's all these different tours. But at the top of them, you've got the tips tour, which is unrestricted. It's open to everybody, and it's the best of the best essentially. And so that tour is the one that I compete on. And yeah, you've got 2 rounds a week. If it's a major championship, there's 3 rounds a week, and you're following the PGA Tour schedule. And because it's partnered with GS Pro, the golf courses that you play each week are more often than not the ones that the guys are playing on the tour as well. So it's really cool. You can have the PGA Tour, on the TV next to you, and you can be playing the actual event as well, competing.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool.
Very
So
cool.
is there a certain level of tech that you need for the tour, or what's the eligibility criteria?
Yeah, so eligibility criteria is you just have to have any launch monitor that connects to GS Pro. So this is separate to, say, the Quest series, which are essentially pay-for-play tours. So they've got pay-for-play tours as well. With the Simulator Golf Tour at the moment, as long as your launch monitor connects to GS Pro and you can do putting, whether that's webcam putting or you can hook up your X putt with the Garmin R10 or whatever, whichever way you can putt, as long as you can do that, you can play.
Nice, nice.
I just heard the word expat,
Yes.
and I
Yes,
think
I have that in my notes because I have watched the Xputt review, and yeah,
Yeah.
we've been talking a bit about the Xputt and how good that device is. So maybe let's start there, like, because we're going to get to launch monitors, but
Yeah.
we've been talking a lot about putting, and we had a
mm,
brief conversation
Mm.
about putting before we jumped on the mic. So tell us a little bit about the Xputt.
Yeah, so the XPUT is a fantastic device. It's made by the same people who make the Square make the XPUT. So they're both fantastic devices, a Korean company. The XPUT is, I guess I don't think it's the world's first, but it's arguably the best home putting simulator that you can get. So it uses a camera. You have to have a special mat, and that's how it tracks the ball speed, horizontal launch angle, etc. And it's going to give you not only ball data, but also putter data. As long as you have the dots on your putter, it'll give you like path and face angle and things like that.
Nice,
how does
nice.
it compare? So you might have heard we recently had a conversation when I did a putter fitting with a Sam Putt Lab machine.
Yes.
So how does it sort of compare with some of the data that pull from that machine? Like, because obviously that's $30,000 plus worth of
Yeah.
kit to different
World
ballpark
class.
altogether.
Yeah.
But it blew me away, that experience.
Yeah, the Sam Putt Lab is incredible. And I don't know if you guys have heard of Quintic as well. That's probably, I'm going to say Quintic's arguably the best putting, data, whatever you want to call it, like launch monitor device you can get. I think that would probably be the ultimate. Sam Putt Lab is amazing. It's probably right up there, just as good. When you've got these home devices, in my experience using it, comparing it to a bunch of other devices that I've had, it's absolutely incredible how accurate it is. It is a really good device. The only way to really check it against the Sam Putt Lab would be to just go head to head and compare them, which that would be a fun video. I'd love to do that.
I think we've just put that on your radar. Pardon the pun,
Yeah.
Joe. Uh,
Yeah.
might be something to look into.
So then, if, say, for instance, someone wanted to set up a golf sim at home, obviously, commandeer the garage and, throw the cars out on the street, how would they go
We just
about
sell the
doing
cars,
that?
Andy Walker.
Yes,
Sell the
Yeah.
cars to
sell
Yeah.
the
finance the
Just
cars
get
sim.
to
rid of them.
Yeah.
excellent, excellent. I love it. I love it. So how would they do it, Joe? What's the best approach from your perspective?
Yeah. Yeah. So the best approach, honestly, when I first did this, I built everything by scratch. I researched how to do it and I built it by scratch. I ordered stuff from Carl's Place in America. And it was honestly, it was a never-ending project. And the end result I got to was actually pretty good. I was quite happy with it. It took a lot of work. And honestly, it probably cost me more money in the long run because I was always band-aiding certain things that were wrong with it. And so the best way now is jump on Bayside Golf. You can get, they do packages. You can get the enclosure. You can get something like the Square Golf launch monitor. You get all that stuff, and you're going to have the best gear you can get in Australia, like without a doubt. The screens sit flat, they sit nice. Everything comes in a kit. You can get the computer. Everything's going to work. That is the best way to do it.
Okay, and that's what
Yeah.
you've got behind you. I'm assuming the golf enclosure there. That's from Bayside Golf.
Yeah, this one behind me is, yeah. So I've got the medium wide enclosure, and that's what I've been using for the last, I'm going to say 6 months, maybe more than that now, about a year, I'm going to say. So yeah, that's what I've been using. And honestly, like I said, in Australia, you're not going to find anything that compares to the quality for the price you get. Yeah, amazing.
No, that's awesome. And I think one of the things we've been guilty of over time has been going for bits that you can afford at the time without necessarily putting a budget aside to do the whole project properly, which I think is a bit what you're talking about. And so
Yeah.
you end up then, probably purchasing things that maybe you regret long term because it might not fully suit your needs. So that you end up actually having to rebuy something that's similar but better. So I think the lesson I pull out of that is plan it properly, commit the budget, and actually just go the whole hog and don't half do the job.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, if you are really handy with woodwork, if you're really handy on the tools, then by all means go for your life. You can build a frame, and you can buy just the impact screen, a custom size from Bayside. Like if you've got a dedicated space and you're really handy, on the tools, then go for it. But for me, it's just like just get something that everything clips together. You put the sides over it. You've got your enclosure, and it just works. It's so easy. You can build them in about 10 minutes. It's so easy.
Amazing. And now simulated golf. So obviously there's pros and cons, right? Like playing simulated golf, and whether that's playing tournaments or whether that's using it for practice. One of the criticisms that you do here is that you're always hitting off a perfect lie. You're always hitting off flat surfaces. You're not feeling the environmental conditions and some of those issues around playing the shots. You don't have the immediate sort of feedback of consequences of sort of hitting a ball out of bounds, even though it can happen. I just don't think it feels the same. So, but
Yeah.
maybe from your perspective, someone with a lot more experience in this, what are the unexpected pros of simulator golf versus what are some of the drawbacks that you might not see coming when you get into it?
Yeah, so it's exactly like you said, Steve. So you don't have the environmental conditions, which is, I guess, a con, but also can be a pro when it's raining outside. And I just come in
That's
here
true.
and turn my projector on and hit some balls. It's quite nice. So yeah, you're not going to get the environmental conditions. Like you said, you're always going to have a perfect lie. You've got what a lot of people don't think about as well is indoors, you have a lot of alignment aids. So I've got, for instance, my mat is running parallel to my launch monitor, whichever I'm using. So I've got parallel lines running. And so as humans, we just lock onto those parallel lines, and it's a lot easier to aim in a golf simulator. So there's a lot of things that are helping you. And I guess that's why simulator golf scores, they're lower. Let's be honest. Like once you get used to the software, you can go low on a golf simulator, like really low. But you've still got to hit the shots. So you've still got to put a good swing on it. You've still got to hit the shots. Now, those are some, I guess, the cons that it's not like real golf. But then some of the pros, like I said, the elements, you can use this. It doesn't matter what the weather is. You're going to get data that's going to be high quality, and it's actually going to help your game. So you can diagnose why shots are going left, why shots are going right. You can diagnose your swing. We've got swing cameras built in. So you're going to get all the analysis and everything you could ever need. You can hook up to a golf coach, online coaching now, or AI coaching is huge. So you can do that. I mean, there's a lot of pros. Yeah.
So you
AI
don't
coaching, Andy Walker, AI coaching, I hear.
Yeah.
You'd be a fan of that.
Yeah,
We
no.
dabbled with an AI app. We didn't like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Which one?
What was it called? Golf Fix.
Golf
Yeah.
Fix. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I've used that one. Yeah.
Yep.
So when you're talking
we
about,
actually shouldn't name them. Sorry, when we say we don't
no,
like
Yeah.
them.
no. So when you're playing sim golf in your garage and you're playing like a Scottish links course, you don't like bring the sprinkler system in and put it like an industrial fan on or anything like that to simulate the Scottish golfing experience.
I do have an industrial fan under here just because it gets really hot in my garage, but no.
Not quite the point of playing in your garage.
Yeah.
So then, when it comes to launch monitors
Yeah.
specifically, and again, we had a bit of a chat before we came on, in that I've recently moved house, and I had my golf sim set up in my garage, and the Garmin R10, which worked reasonably well in the garage, but
Yeah.
I've in my house that we've bought and moved to. I'm lucky enough to have a dedicated ColourBond shed. It's about sort of
Yeah.
6 meters long by 3.5 wide. And the Garmin R10 really doesn't like all the metal around. And I believe that's very much a Doppler radar issue.
Yeah.
So what would your, I guess, what are the sort of pros and cons of the different systems? It looks like I'm probably going to have to go to a camera-based system,
Yeah.
but just run through some of those considerations, I guess, when someone's looking at a launch monitor for their specific needs.
Yeah, definitely. The first thing I've done a video on this and I talk about this, and I guess the first thing I always talk about when I'm, suggesting launch monitors to people is, what do you actually want to use it for? And I think that's the question that you really need to sit down and write down. Why am I getting this unit? Am I getting it to use it outdoors only? Am I getting it to use indoors only? Or do I want a combination of the both? That's the biggest thing, because if you can figure out why you're actually getting a launch monitor, then your options become a lot easier. It shrinks the number of launch monitors just off the bat, just by answering that question. And so, for instance, if someone said to me, I just want to play simulator golf GS Pro for the cheapest amount possible with a photometric device, I'd say, cool, get the Square. It's that's easy, like done. But if they said to me, oh, I want to use this outdoors and I want to use it indoors, well, then they can't get the Square. Then you're looking at other launch monitors, maybe the Rapsodo MLM2 Pro or something like that. So that's kind of the first question. After that, you've got to be thinking about budget. And so what's your budget? That's going to narrow down your options quite dramatically. And then you're looking at your environment. So like yourself, you're in a ColourBond shed. So radar, I mean, look, radar indoors is just, it's a bad idea. Radar indoors is just not a good option. Radar outdoors is amazing. But there's cons also with that, is you've got to use a premium ball. So unless you're using, Pro V1s or the ball that you play on course, then if you've got a Doppler radar unit and you're measuring range balls, I mean, unless there's an algorithm like TrackMan has, and then you're using an algorithm. So I always say launch monitors indoors are fantastic. Get a photometric base unit. You won't have any issues. And then you can use the ball that you play on course and yeah, you're going to have a good chipping experience, putting experience, and you're not going to have interference like you would with a radar based unit. Having said that, photometric based units still have the chance to be interfered with. I had a guy who was a good friend, and he said he had the iMini Lite, and he said this thing, it cannot do putting. And I was like, mate, the iMini is a fantastic device. And he goes, this thing is just, it can't do putting. And it turned out he actually in his garage had bikes on the wall behind him. And so the reflective pedal on one of his kids'
wow.
bikes was interfering with the photometric based unit. So it can be interfered with, but not to the extent that radar units can.
I wish
Because
we'd
I
had this conversation a few months ago, Andy Walker,
Yeah.
before we invested in Doppler radar units.
yeah. Because we've both got the Garmin R10, and I know that certainly with I was using mine a lot for wedges and just dialing in my wedge
Yeah.
distances. Wasn't too convinced about the sort of, especially when you got to the sort of mid to longer irons and driver fairway,
Yeah.
but it was okay with the wedges. But yeah, I've always thought, all right, well, I want something a bit better. I've looked at the Flight Scope Mevo Plus. I think that,
Yeah.
all the reviews seem to be quite good on that unit. But again, it's a Doppler radar based unit. So after watching sort
Yeah.
of your reviews, I'm more leaning towards the square launch monitor, because that seems to be the one, because that's got putting, that's got
Yeah.
random wedge practice. It's got a whole
Yeah.
range of really cool features, it seems.
Yeah, no, the Square, it burst onto the scene. And whenever a device like that comes out, I'm always a little bit skeptical because of the price. And Square, they make the XPut. It's the makers of the XPut who made the Square. And when I got it, I was blown away by the putting and the chipping, because that's really where you can see a lot of cheaper photometric devices struggle with horizontal launch angle. But I mean, that unit is just mind blowing. It's had a couple of updates now, and I've played Pebble Beach recently with it, and I was just like, do you need to get a GC3? If all you want to do is play sim golf, work on your wedges, and just enjoy yourself, then yeah, do you need to pay thousands and thousands of dollars for a high end photometric based system? Begs the question.
And does the putting on the square, does that, how does it rate with the X putt? Is it similar, or like how does what's the comparison?
So I haven't tested the Square and the XPut head to head. That might actually be a good video. But what I will say is I'm going to write down all these video ideas you guys are giving me. But the Square, when I did my putting test with it, I was just blown away. It was just, it's so reliable, almost to the point where I'm like, man, is this thing? It's just so tight with its horizontal launch angle. It's incredible. It's comparing it to my Pro T, comparing it to the GC3. I honestly can't tell a difference. Yeah, I don't know how they've done it. I'd love to know, but
It
Yeah.
just seems though that the technology year in, year out, the speed of improvements and the affordability of these units that's just coming down in price each time a new one is released is quite remarkable. So I mean,
yeah,
like where are we going to be in another 5 or 10 years? Is the question.
that's it. That's exactly right. And I know Foresight, Unicore. Well, Foresight really has the name, and they're priced accordingly. You've got to think though, this tech is it's gathering speed, and it was the Garmin R10 that really started this whole home simulator. The Garmin R10, we've got to give a lot of credit to that device, and it's still to this day an amazing device. The only real issue I have with it is the spin axis, because it calculates, or it estimates the spin axis based on all the club data, etc. So, but the Garmin R10 really started this, and in a short few years, we've got an affordable photometric device that you're struggling to tell the difference between that and a GC3. I mean, that is pretty crazy.
That's remarkable. It's remarkable.
Yeah.
Now, on the R10 point, there's a lot of debate that we've come across, and as we've mentioned, both of us have got an R10.
Yeah.
But the question that I've got is about the RCT balls, the radar capture technology balls.
Yep.
And I switched to them to use in the garage at home. And I actually thought that I'd noticed a difference with the accuracy of some of the numbers that I was seeing out of the unit. But there's a lot of debate on various forums online about whether or not it makes any difference, whether or not it's worthwhile. What's your take on that? Should you go to the RCTs, or does it not really matter?
Absolutely, you should. If you care about data, then yes, you should go to the RCT. What the RCT does is it allows the unit to correctly measure backspin. It has no impact on spin axis. The radar can't determine spin axis, but it will correctly capture backspin, which ultimately affects your carry distance. So it's huge. It's really important. So yeah, if you're trying to dial in your game, you're trying to dial in carry distances, having an RCT golf ball is a must, in my opinion. But you've also probably got to play a Pro V1 outside then as well, or a Pro V1X.
Which you should do anyway, Pilgrims. There's no question.
Yeah.
But even with the square launch monitor, you need to use either the square golf balls or the tailor-made the designed golf balls. I forget what they're called.
The picks, yeah.
The picks, yeah. So you've got to use those with the square, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. So again, we're still in that early phase with these cheaper photometric-based units. They can't dimple track, so they rely on either a patented golf ball with the official square golf ball, or you've got to get the tailor-made Pix golf balls, which is pretty incredible that they enabled it so quickly. I emailed the guys, and literally like a week or two later, that enabled it with Pix golf balls, which is huge. You do have the other option as well is the dots. So rapsodoBallDots.com, they were the guys who originally made the ball dots for the Rapsodo. They actually do make them for the square as well. So you've got dots that you can put, say if you play say you play the Titleist, you could put them on a Pro V1, but they're not going to be as durable. They will wear off after a week or two. So something to be aware of.
Are they made out of anything in particular, or are they just dots?
They are made, what they're made out of, Metamark vinyl. So they're like a permanent vinyl.
So you couldn't just use Sharpie and put a few dots around the golf ball?
You could, I actually have a stencil
this might
somewhere.
Not be as silly a question as you think, Andy Walker.
No, so someone sent me a stencil, and I believe it does work, but if you've got a beautiful white impact screen, the last thing I want is like black Sharpie all over it. And not to mention your clubs would get like covered in Sharpie, and you'd have dots everywhere, and just be a mess.
That is actually a very good point.
Yeah. Well, I've sort of got the opposite issue in that the impact screen that I bought has a sort of target, a black target. And when I hit the RCT balls into the impact screen, the RCT balls grab the black and they go dark very, very quickly.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Need to update the impact screen.
Sorry?
Need to update your impact screen.
Yes, definitely. That's going to be part of the upgrade. But I've also seen that you use the Pro T VX as well, which is the ceiling mounted launch monitor. Tell us a little bit about the Pro T. I'm really interested in that one too, if my budget allows.
Yeah, the Pro T VX is it is the cheapest overhead launch monitor you can get. It's about, I'm going to say, half the price of the IXO2, roughly. Don't quote me. It's a lot cheaper, a lot more affordable than the IXO2. And the Pro T is the first overhead launch monitor that I've had in my environment. And when I initially did this sim, I never imagined having an overhead unit. And I honestly thought I couldn't, because I've only got 2.7 meter ceilings in my garage. And so I was focused on getting, the floor-based iMini or GC3, GC Quad. But now that I've had the overhead, once you've tasted that, I mean, I do not want to go back. It's just so, it's so good. So you're going to get something, and I say this as well in my reviews, it's not on the ground. So when my kids come in here and when I get other people coming in here and playing, I'm not worried about them kicking it. I'm not worried about a ball hitting it. It's on the ceiling, out of the way. You can do left and right-handed players. But I think the biggest thing that I love about the Pro Tee is the stickerless club data, and also the top-down video of your golf club going through impact, because you can look at numbers all you want. And like, I love numbers and I love looking at the data, but nothing compares to the video of the club head going through impact. And you can see exactly what the club head's done as it's gone through. It's just, yeah, you can't, the amount of numbers you can look at, you can't just visualize what that video does.
Mm-hmm. So I know that with obviously the specialized golf balls with some launch monitors, but a lot of them you do have to put stickers or tape on the actual club as well to get accurate data. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Yeah. So I've got, for instance, the iMini. I've just got it back out again, and so my driver, for instance, I've got my dot on my driver there. So you've got to put these metallic stickers on your clubs, so then the unit can track the actual club head.
Okay. So then the Pro Tee that doesn't require, you can just use your Pro V1 or whatever golf ball that you'd like with the Pro Tee.
Yeah, so the Pro Tee, well, all launch monitors really, they're broken up into two categories, I guess. You've got ball data and then club data. So ball data is what all of your simulation softwares are going to use, and all the simulation softwares don't need club data. So you've got, for instance, ball speed, horizontal launch angle, vertical launch angle, backspin, and spin axis. So those are the 5 ball metrics you need to play sim golf, or to have a ball flight, I guess, in the virtual world. And then you've got club data. So that's where you've got club path, face to path, all the club data, club speed that you want. And there's, well, how it's always been captured is either by radar or by metallic stickers on clubs. And then depending on which launch monitor is, they're going to use those stickers. Whether it's a GC quad, they're actually going to make a plane of the club, and then they're going to capture the data that way, or a single dot. It's just going to get the single dot, and that's how it's going to get your club speed and club path. So that's kind of how it's broken down. What the Pro Tee does is something a little bit different. It'll see a club head that doesn't have a sticker. Let me find one that I don't have a sticker on. So it'll see the club head, and it will put reference points on each of the 4 corners of the club head. It's got machine learning, and so it's been fed a bunch of different club heads, and it will recognize what club it is and put those reference dots on the club, and they're essentially virtual stickers that the unit then tracks through impact to give you all the data.
Wow, that's amazing.
Nuts. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, and it's pretty revolutionary. And since they've done it, we have seen a few other companies do it as well. So I believe Unicore with the IXO has a stickerless data mode, but I don't think it's as accurate as their stickered mode. So I think AI really, like AI and all this learning, stickerless data is going to be the next big thing. I think we'll see, for instance, Foresight and other units. I think they're going to have to really get stickerless data, because if you've got like a commercial facility, you don't want to put stickers on your clubs every time you go in. It's just another job that you've got to do. And so you end up, all the commercial facilities that I've been to, I just can't be bothered. So you end up just getting ball data. Whereas if you've got the Pro Tee, now you're getting accurate club data as well, without the hassle of having to put on stickers, because those stickers are actually illegal to have on your club face in competition play. So it's just another way it's just going to make it more accessible and easier for people just to get that data.
So I guess you've got to remember, if you've been in your sim and you've got sort of stickers on your clubs, you actually need to remember to take them off before you go and play in any competitions. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. And look, I don't think you get many people that would ping you on it, like, honestly, but it's just, yeah, it's better to not have to worry about that sort of stuff, isn't it?
Absolutely. I've got to admit, though, I'm somewhat impressed. I didn't realize that there was so much AI and machine learning going on in the golf industry. There's obviously a bit. I mean, my last set of irons were Callaway Apex irons, and they're allegedly got AI in the face design. I don't know exactly what that does. But anyway, my point is it's great to see that it's not all just going down the destruction path of the Terminator films, that we're actually using AI to make the golf industry better. So that's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. With the AI coaching as well, I think we've seen companies integrate it into their software. And I think that with AI coaching now, realistically, I think it's a tool that you can use. I don't think it's the answer. I think you've got things like Sportsbox AI, which are fantastic. You've got to know how to use it. And you've also got to know a bit about the golf swing to get the most out of it. So I think it's a tool for a coach to use to then to help visualize or help give you metrics to show you what you're doing. But I don't think AI swing coaches are the solution yet. I think they're close though. And I just wonder in the next few years, they're just going to get better and better. Potentially, they will be the answer in the future.
Well, our issue with that was that it was throwing at you a whole bunch of information of every potential flaw, comparing against a model swing. So
Yeah.
not necessarily picking up on your specific matchups that you might need, and then also more importantly, not necessarily looking at the order in which you need to fix things in the swing as well. Just vomiting information at you to tell you all of the things
Yeah.
wrong with your swing. Not great for self-esteem either, Joe. I've got to be completely
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah. I love how you said matchups because that's absolutely correct. If you put John Rahm or if you put Ryan Fox, if you put Ryan Fox on Sportsbox AI, it would just have a million faults with his swing. But the guy is an absolute flusher and he hits it so long. So, like, why would you change it? His
I
matchups work.
Yeah, I ran John Rahm's swing through,
Did you?
yeah, through one of those apps, and he rated a 4.8 out of 10.
There you go.
So that
Yeah.
was an interesting
And I
exercise.
guess that's proof there that they're just not quite there.
There is one app though that both Steve and I use, which is Golf Swing Replay,
Yes, we love it.
which has been really good. I mean, I mainly use it for down the line, down the line angle, and it gives you the trace of your club head, and I
Oh, that's
find
cool.
that
I'm
to
gonna have to get that.
It's
yeah, I
cool.
find it to be really useful to just to see where my where the club head is and where it is in relation the downswing in relation to my backswing because I've my main fault is coming over the top and the old early extension which the vast majority of amateur golfers suffer from.
Yeah.
Whereas throwing the Golf Swing Replay app on gives me a really good sense of okay, this is exactly where I'm at, and I don't do it for every shot, but every three or four swings that I make, I then put on the Golf Swing Replay app. Record a swing, see where I'm at, and make the changes from there. But I also
Mm.
feel that I've got enough expertise and know my golf swing well enough to be able to sort of self-analyze to a certain extent.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. See, that'd be awesome. Like those kind of apps are the ones that people like Proti or Unicore or these other companies they should be looking at those to integrate them into the software. And I know TrackMan does. They've got their whole what's the replay called that they do that exact same AI swing. I think in their software it will do that. Whereas I think a lot of these other companies now, these newer companies like Protein, need to start integrating that stuff into their apps.
Mm. Yeah, I
Yes.
did go and see a golf coach probably 18 months ago, and uh, she used a TrackMan and basically did that. There was a portal that I logged into. She was able to go through the data, go through the analysis, and I was able just to sort of download it and watch it at any time. It was actually really cool.
That's actually that is really good coaching. Yeah, that's fantastic.
The thing we noticed with going back to Golf Swing Replay as an example is it tends to be the apps that just do one thing really well that are the good ones. The ones that are
Yeah.
trying to do everything is where nothing necessarily is as good as it can be. And I think you just get information overload. But but that one we really liked. And similarly, Tour Tempo, just as something which does one job, does it very well. It's very simple.
Yeah.
But some of those things that actually just not trying to tell you everything, but trying to do a specific job is actually where the money is, I think, in this game.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, if we were going to start from scratch, all right, I can put you on the spot here, Joe. If we're going to start from
Okay.
scratch, setting up a simulator, and let's just say we've got a garage
Yep.
and we're going to put the cars outside. We've talked to the wife. We've explained that she can't park in the garage anymore. We're going to have to going to have to get out of the car in the driveway and run into the front door through the rain.
Well,
I,
yeah.
I thought maybe you were going to say that, the wife just comes home after work one day and it's all set up,
Yeah.
ready to go.
I,
Beg for
Isn't
forgiveness.
yeah, isn't
Pilgrims,
that
I
what they
wouldn't be
say?
recommending. I wouldn't be recommending that approach. But in terms of if we were going to pick, say a setup at a couple of different budget levels,
Hmm.
like an entry level, a mid level, and then I've got more money than sense level.
Yep.
Like, what would your setup be? Let's talk, say, like launch monitor and whatever else people might need to invest in.
Yeah. So I think budget, if you were going to go budget, the thing with golf sims and what you got to realize is once you start down this journey, you will eventually end up like me. You're gonna, it's a slow process, but you will
Yeah,
eventually end up
yeah,
just
facts.
continually adding to it. So I'd caution anyone who's going to get a sim setup um, to go real cheap with everything at the start. So what I'd invest in is, and this is what Bayside does really good, is they give you um, a bunch of different options on their website, and they will recommend that for the enclosure, for instance, you just get the enclosure. Don't get a net and then upgrade to a cheap enclosure and then upgrade to this enclosure. Get the enclosure first. Get a good quality enclosure, a good quality stance mat. Um, Invest in a few things like that are really good. With launch monitors now, if you were going to go budget, that's where you could potentially go the square. And again, it depends on what everybody wants to get out of it. But you'd get the square and potentially a hitting net or an enclosure. I'd say just get the enclosure and just be done with it. And then honestly, you're just updating the launch monitor, or getting a more expensive launch monitor. Because if you bought everything that's just going to stay there at the start, you're not going to have to keep reinvesting. So that's my take on it.
So it's effectively you're investing in like your base infrastructure,
Yeah,
and then upgrading the tech as
that's it.
yeah.
That's what I would do. Look, if you want to really have a few different categories, like say if you wanted a budget option, you could talk, hey, get a net return or a spawnier net, get a square golf launch monitor, and use an iPad. That would be your budget setup. Then your next one would be, hey, get depending on what you were looking for, say a Mevo Plus, or get an iMini Lite, or get an iMini and get a PC. But then you look at it and you go, oh, now I've got to get impact screen because I want to project an image on it. So then you've got to sell stuff, or so yeah, it gets difficult. But budget would be square, say a net return or a spawnier net and an iPad. Next level up, I'd be getting an enclosure, PC, GS Pro, and an iMini Lite. And then if you wanted to get the ultimate, you're looking at either an overhead like a Pro T with the enclosure, or you can go a custom build even now. You can go crazy and get a full custom, it looks like those TrackMan builds you see. You can get them on Bayside as well. You can get a full enclosure built for you as well. Not just these portable enclosures, like an actual proper, professional bay as well at your house. So you can go crazy. You can spend a lot of money.
Would it be worthwhile, do you think, just say building a new house and designing it around your setup?
Absolutely.
Would that just be the way to go?
Absolutely. Yeah. Build the house around the golf sim.
Yeah.
That's when we were building this house, actually, it was funny because I was just so concerned about the garage and the ceiling height. And I think my wife knew exactly what was going on. And I just didn't care about anything. I just cared about where in the
Oh,
garage things were going to go, where the studs were so I could hang stuff. And yeah. But
that's
no, I think
fantastic.
it's like if I could get a shed, I think that's the way to go. Having a separate space, I think that's really good, and you can insulate it because noise is a big thing. And what I've learned is if you did have a sim room in your house somewhere, you'd want to make it pretty soundproof. Like you'd want it to be a basement or something that was really soundproof. Otherwise, you're going to be annoying people.
Or living on your own.
Yeah, or that. Yeah.
Now, there's one more thing I'd like to talk about that I think is really important with launch monitors, simulators, and the software that goes in it are the subscription costs. Because I know that
Yes.
with launch monitors, some of them have their own native software environments. There are subscription costs that are associated with them, but then there's the external software. I've invested in Awesome Golf
Yeah.
software. I've got
Fantastic software.
yeah, the lifetime subscription. I got it on
Yeah.
one of their sort of sale discount days, which was great. But what are the different options that you've got from a subscription based and then the software that goes along with the launch monitors?
Yeah, so I guess that's one thing to be aware of when you're going to buy a launch monitor is some of them do have a subscription that you have to pay to essentially unlock the device. The MLM2 Pro, for instance, that if you don't have the subscription, it's so limiting in what it can do that you've essentially, I mean, look, it's you can use it, but barely. And it's like you've got to use it outside and you can't like save anything. So you've got to be careful when you do get a launch monitor that there are potentially going to be subscription fees. These aren't always a bad thing. Like I say to people, people get really wound up about these subscription fees. And I go, well, if you look at it, the device that has a subscription fee is generally, more often than not, going to be the device that actually receives ongoing support. So if you look at the MLM2 Pro, where it was at launch to where it is now and the software, it's gotten a lot better. Like it's incredible how much better that software's got. The game improvement modes, the speed training, the combines, the new ranges on it, the courses have been updated. It's now got some limited club data as well. So they're still investing into that product. Now, the ones that don't have subscription fees, most of them still get support. Garmin R10 hasn't had an update for how long has it been? 2 years now? It's been a while since the Garmin's had an update. So subscription fees aren't always a bad thing, but it's something to be aware of when you're going to buy a launch monitor as well.
Mm. What about the
Interesting.
softwares that the add-on softwares? What would be your recommendation? As I said, I've got Awesome Golf, but then there's GS Pro, and I know that there's a couple of
Mm.
others because you do also do need those if you want to play simulator golf like the tools like you do.
Yeah, so the Simulated Golf Tour is partnered with GS Pro. So GS Pro is the software that I use. And honestly, if you're going to get a golf software at home, in my opinion, GS Pro, it's just the best. There's a number of reasons for that, but I think the biggest reason is the price. The actual price for this software is and I mean, I hope GS Pro doesn't listen to this because it's honestly a joke how cheap the software is to get. And I hope they don't hear that. And the reason for that is the way that they have presented the software and they've given the users of the software the tools to build the course. So there's open course platform design. I think I've said that right. And that GS Pro goes, there's the tools. You guys build the courses
Right.
essentially. And so that's how that's kind of set up. But what's happened since GS Pro's launched is that you've got quite a few guys now, and yeah, they are all guys actually that I know of, quite a few guys that are really, really good and specialized at building these courses. So they look incredible. I mean, they are world class. And so you're getting a subscription using GS Pro. They're not having to pay license fees to these courses, but you're getting courses built on the software that resemble very, very closely the courses in real life. And so that's why GS Pro, in my opinion, is the best software. The courses on there now, there's thousands and thousands of courses. You've also got other options. So there's other options like E6 Connect. It's a fantastic software. It's going to cost you a bit more, and it's going to be a massive upfront payment. You've got TGC 2019, same thing. It's going to be a massive upfront payment. So there's other softwares out there. But to me, if you're going to get a home simulator, just get GS Pro. The community around GS Pro as well is huge, and the online community is massive. And so it's a fantastic software and community.
And do all launch monitors, are they compatible with GS Pro, or do they only are they only compatible with a limited number of launch monitors?
Yeah, so that's another thing to watch out for if you're buying a launch monitor. I'm going to say almost all launch monitors now are compatible with GS Pro. And again, don't quote me on that, but some of them have what's called an official connector. So GS Pro, the way it runs, they'll partner with launch monitor companies, and they'll have an actual connector on their software that is, say, a Unicore connector or a Pro-T connector or a Foresight connector. They've also got something on GS Pro called Open API. And what this is it's a way for other companies or other people to build a connector. And the community has built these for a bunch of different launch monitors. The community builds a connector that speaks to this Open API that will then send the shot data into GS Pro. So even if it's not officially supported by GS Pro still give a way for the community to build the connector. If you really wanted to, you could get a launch monitor connected to GS Pro.
Yeah,
and for instance, TrackMan, people are using TrackMan with GS Pro, even though they're direct competitors and enemies. So there's a third-party connector that you can use to hook up your TrackMan.
Amazing.
Nice.
It's amazing. It seems like they've outsourced some of the code writing as well, which is pretty clever.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. So what are some of the pitfalls? We've talked about a lot of the lessons that you've learned along the way through what it seems like a lot of trial and error and a lot of research.
Yeah.
What are obviously going cheap early and then having to replace things is an obvious one. Where are some of the other ways that you see people go wrong in this space?
That's a great question. I think, honestly, that the biggest lesson that I've learned along this way is to invest in the bits of equipment that you're not going to change. So the enclosure, for instance, I think that's the biggest lesson to be learned. Other pitfalls, potentially not understanding hardware and how it works is another one. There's a lot of people on YouTube, and this is one of the major driving factors of my channel. There's a lot of people on there doing reviews that are then trying to sell the launch monitors and get a kickback, essentially. Yeah. So I guess a major pitfall I've seen with a lot of people is they'll watch reviews on a product, and I actually fell into this trap as well. They'll watch reviews on a product and they'll buy it and then be let down by it. So I guess understanding technology, understanding the limitations of technology is a huge thing. And then try and watch some honest reviews. And like I said, that was a major driving factor for my channel. Is I'd see a lot of reviews out there that weren't completely honest, or they weren't they didn't show off any issues with the launch monitors in a short video. And this is the best thing. People buy it, get let down. And like I said, it happened to me when I first bought the iMini. I watched reviews. It was a GC3 competitor. You could get either one of these and you'd be happy. When I first got the iMini, it had a lot of different flaws with it that I picked up on and just put on my channel to show people. And then Unicore actually contacted me, and I worked with them to fix the issues that I was seeing. So yeah, I guess just be aware of fake reviews and try and do your research before buying and investing in a launch monitor, because at the end of the day, like, they're a lot of money. And for a lot of people, and I know me, if I didn't have this setup from Bayside, etc., like I invested, I got the R10 and then I got a GC2 and then I worked my way up to an iMini. So you are going to invest a fair bit of money in different launch monitors.
It's an interesting point that you talk about with the reviews, because I think, whether it's launch monitors, whether it's a new driver, a lab putter, whatever the case may be, Andy Walker, I'm looking at you. You can search out the reviews that will tell you what you want to hear if you're interested in a particular product.
You can. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Which I think it does make it tricky, because trying to sift through the volume of information that exists out there on YouTube and other areas, be it Instagram or whatnot, it can be sometimes difficult. But there was a question I meant to ask you before, and I had forgotten it, so I do want to go back there. We've talked a bit about the R10 from Garmin, and we've talked about quite a few of the other launch monitors, but we haven't talked about the R50. Have you had a chance to try that bad boy out? And if so, what do you think?
I have tried the R50. And I've done a review on this, so check it out. But the R50, when I tried it, it was relatively new. And what we've seen with a lot of launch monitors when they first come out is they're not the best. There's still some issues. There's still some bugs. I think what makes it hard for these companies to make a launch monitor is they can, and I've seen this because I'm testing a homemade launch monitor at the moment from a guy in Canada. It's I'm going to say relatively easy for these companies to make a launch monitor that works in their controlled environment. Then when you start shipping it across the world to everybody, to all these different environments, you've got bike pedals in the background that's causing a reflection. There's going to be a lot of issues that pop up. And so I think that's why a lot of launch monitors, when they first come out, we see a lot of issues that have to get updated over the space of 6 months to a year. So when I first tested the R50, it was relatively new. And for full shots, it was incredible. The data was fantastic, which is already a massive pro. For chipping, it was really good. For putting, it was not good. And I put my videos out. They did an update. I tested the putting again. It was a lot better, but it still wasn't perfect for me in my environment. So I think it will definitely get there, but I do think it just has to have a little bit of time just to figure out all the bugs.
Certainly for me, I think, you mentioned before that there hasn't been an update for the R10 for a little while. To me, it would seem that Garmin are putting all their resources into the R50 because that was
what made me think of that, exactly that point.
Yeah, and I think that's what, and I mean, look, not trying to throw Garmin under the bus, but they seem to do that with a lot of their products. You'll see Garmin come out with these products that are amazing, game-changing, and then like after a few years, they'll kind of get pushed to the wayside. They'll bring a new product out, and that's the best thing, and they'll kind of do that. And I guess that might have to do with that subscription. Whereas you look at Rapsodo, they're still supporting their initial MLM, like the MLM2 Pro that came out. And then they have recently added RCT support for the MLM, their original launch monitor. So I think subscription fees, as consumers, as users, we don't like them. But at the end of the day, I think if a product gets ongoing support for the next 10 years, whatever, you kind of feel like you're getting your money's worth a little bit.
Yeah, and I feel like that sort of, coming back to the Square launch monitor, you seem to come out with a update on the Square launch monitor every second day, that they've upgraded this and they've upgraded that, and it just seems to be getting better and better.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so Square doesn't have a subscription fee, but it's new, and yeah, they're updating it. They're pretty quick to update it. They're a small team. I know they're a small team. They're really nice guy that I talked to from Square, and how that got to Australia it's crazy because the channel was actually a massive driving factor for bringing that unit to Australia, which I'm quite proud of, along with Bayside. So it was pretty cool. But yeah, the Square, it's getting updates quite frequently. So they're doing an amazing job.
I actually just watched your video on the 10 things that they need to sort out with that unit. So
Yeah,
hopefully someone else was listening as well, and you get a bit of traction on that. So it looked really good. Looked very interesting. I think that might be a direction to move in the not too distant future. There's Christmas is just around the corner, isn't it?
that's it. Yeah,
It's close for Father's Day, Christmas. We're good.
Yeah,
We're good.
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's it. That's it.
I also saw on your channel an Aimpoint Express
Yeah, yeah.
board. I haven't had a chance to
yes,
actually watch it yet, which I'm going to do in the next couple of days. But yeah, that looks like an interesting device on how to. I mean, I'm an Aimpoint fan.
yeah,
Steve's gone down the line of the tool read, but yeah,
yep.
I'm really interested to know about that the board and how that assists with your understanding of aim point.
Yeah, so aim point putting for me, I've gone down this huge rabbit hole, and yeah, it started with the lab. The lab. Well, it started because I wasn't putting well outdoors, and that was the big reason. I'd find
We've all been
myself
there, Joe. Don't worry. We've all
pulling my
been there.
hair out, just pulling my hair out, hitting it really well, hitting it a lot better than a lot of people, but just not scoring. And so that's when I just went down. I just said, right, that's it. And so that's when one of my mates I play golf with, he actually introduced me to the lab putters. And then I tried his and I loved the story. I loved the technology. And so that got me down that avenue. And I've recently just stumbled across Aimpoint Express. I actually built a facility in GS Pro with calibrated slopes because I wanted to again, my quest to get to world number one. I'm trying to look for any advantage I can in
This
the
is awesome.
software to try and reach that number one spot. And so I built a facility. I got someone to build a facility for me in GS Pro that had calibrated slopes with the intent of using the Aimpoint cards, the original cards. And I couldn't find a Stimp 13 Aimpoint card. So I just kind of gave up on it. Fast forward a year, and someone about a month or two ago said to me, "Hey, have you tried Aimpoint Express in GS Pro?" And I went, "That's a really good idea." And so then I've gone down this other rabbit hole. I bought the videos from the Aimpoint website.
Yep.
I watched those so much. Like every night, I think I turn one of those on when I get in bed and just go over it again. But I watched that, and then I researched, and you're talking about the slope board. So I researched and got this slope board because I
Nice,
thought,
nice.
if
It's
I'm
awesome.
going to use Aimpoint in the sim, can I teach myself Aimpoint in GS Pro and on the sim and then take it outdoors? And I played outdoors in a tournament. It was, I'm going to say, a couple of weeks ago now. And I did, for the first time outdoors, I had never done Aimpoint Express outdoors. And I went out there and I only used Aimpoint and I putted really well, like really well. And whether it was just beginner's luck or, whether there's something to it, I think there's something to it because
Yeah.
what's amazing now is the software. You can teach yourself Aimpoint in a simulator and it
It's
works.
crazy.
Take
It's
it
just
Yeah.
outside
crazy.
and it works. And it's just,
Mm.
yeah, mind blowing.
Well,
Yeah.
Aimpoint have got a university. It's called Aimpoint University. Like it's brilliant. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, I am definitely going to go further down the rabbit hole with Aimpoint. I'm going to
Yeah.
definitely go for. I've watched the videos and they still don't really talk about uphill or downhill putts. So I'm probably going to email them and just say, hey, you need to do another video on uphill and downhill.
Mm. Mm.
I did watch your video where you talked about that board.
Mm,
And I love that idea. Like I just think that's so clever. And I can imagine I'm thinking of ordering one, right? Because I'm thinking when I'm at work on a Zoom call, I might just stand on the aim
yeah,
point board and kind of get used to some different slopes whilst I'm working. Um,
yeah,
but you were talking about one of the things with it, which was about aim point, was about reading the middle third of the putt.
yes,
Now we had quite a debate on this, which we don't need to go back into necessarily in our last
yeah,
episode, because the tool read methodology actually talks about reading the final third of the putt and more heavily weighting that because as the ball slows, it takes
Yeah.
more break.
Yep.
So I don't even know if that's a question or I'm just pointing something out. But
It,
what are your
yeah.
thoughts on that difference? I guess is the
So
question.
I guess I'm not sure about the tour read. I know aim point's all about picking your aim point, as in referencing the hole where you're going to aim your putt.
Yeah,
So
same.
I don't know, is tour read talking about the actual like apex, or are they talking about picking a start line on the hole?
They're picking a start line, so it's doing a similar thing. So where aim point's looking at, taking your number of fingers from the hole depending on the
Yeah.
gradient. What
Yeah.
what tool read's doing is doing something similar, and it's about picking your percentage slope. And then there is this really elegant mathematical equation that gives you a distance from the center of the hole as your aiming location.
Okay.
So it's kind of similar,
Yeah.
but there are a few subtle differences.
See, to
Yeah.
me, you've got to be a mathematical genius to
That's
use
the thing.
tool read. Whereas aim point, for a simple bloke like myself,
Stick
just
your
just
fingers in the air.
just holding up a couple of fingers.
I mean,
Hey, that's
I
me.
love nothing more than a good, honest equation while standing on the green trying to read a part. And really, honestly, it's the number. It's the number of, and they work in yards, Joe, which is weird, not feet. So that's sort of
Yeah.
places they go. The number of yards. So a 6 foot putt is 2 yards. So you take the number of yards times two minus one. So a 6 foot
Okay.
putt at a 1 degree of slope will be times
Yeah.
two minus one. So it'd be what's that? Six. Two times two is four, minus one is three. So it's 3 inches from the center of the cup. And then
So
if it was a half degree, you halve it. If it was a 2 degree, you double it, etc. So it's pretty simple maths, guys. Come on.
Well, I don't
yeah,
know. I mean, standing over a 5 or 6 foot putt, just really important putt. Need it for whether it be the match or a really good score. There's nothing like having to work out a mathematical equation to
yeah.
simplify that process.
The best
Yeah,
part is
just to
if
cut
it's
just
match if it's match play and you know that the other person's using it, you just walk past going 7, 5, 2,
yeah.
23.
Do you know, I'll tell you an aim point story quickly. And so like I said, I was playing in a tournament and it was match play. And it got to the 18th hole. I was all square. And I hit my drive a little right. That my opponent smacked it down the middle. And I was out. I had to hit first. I hit this incredible 7-iron to about 10 feet. And he left it short of the green. He chipped on to about 15 feet. He missed it. I had a putt for the win. He ended up getting a par. He got a par. I had a 10-footer for the win. And aim point, again, this is the third day I've been doing aim point now outdoors, taught myself indoors. And I went up to the putt and there's people standing around the green. I felt the end of the first third. Then I moved forward, end of the middle third. I felt it and I felt nothing. I was like, this is zero. This is dead straight. And I was like, this is a dead straight 10-foot putt for the win. And I'm looking at it and I was like, man, this just looks like it moves left to right. And so I had this like internal struggle and I ended up going left edge and I went with my eyes and I hit it and it went dead straight over the left edge and I missed it. And so that was kind of like, to me, I was like, if I just trusted, I putted
Mm,
so good that day, all
yep.
day, I was making putts. Like I wasn't hitting it as good as this guy, but I was putting the dots off it, keeping myself in this match. I didn't trust my feet on that putt and it slid by the left edge.
Yeah,
So
it's a critical error. I've been using aim point for about 18 months, and when I was
yeah,
learning aim point first few times, there were some times I didn't trust what my feet were feeling and the aim point process, and I went, no,
mm,
that's got to break more than that, and you know, the aim point
yeah,
was actually right, and I missed the putt. So yeah, the thing that I think aim point, whether it be or tool read, what it gives you is a framework to work within, and I think that's really important with putting because I feel as though there used to be a bit of guesswork involved in putting,
yeah,
but now I've got a specific framework to be able to work within to at least get the starting point
yeah.
right. So then all I'm working on then is speed. That's my whole focus.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I guess I'm all about that as well. I love having a process, something that you can trust. Whether you're doing the middle third or the end third, it's who you, I guess, Mark Sweeney or the inventor of Tour Read, you're kind of just going, what methodology do I prefer? Who do I trust, I guess? And then you're just going with that, see what works for you. At the end of the day, I think, like you hit the nail on the head, Andy, you've got a process. And I think for me, I love doing a process for everything I do in golf, whether it's pre-shot routine or putting. I like having, even when I used to read the putts, I would read them a certain way. I'd do one from down the line, one from below the hole, do a certain amount of practice swings. You've got a process. And I think that's what Aim Point does as well.
It does, Joe. We recently had a tournament where Andy was injured, so he caddied for me, and he Aim Point read all my putts, and I drained a lot of putts in that tournament, and we proved two things. We proved that I can't.
Wrong.
We proved I can't read a putt, and he can't hit one online. So
yeah,
it did take me probably half a dozen holes. It was a 36 hole event. It took me about half a dozen holes to be able to go, Steve, you can't read a green, man. I'm going to start reading putts for you. Hit it here.
Yeah.
And he did, and he holed a bunch of putts.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
And that's the bombshell on the Missing Links Golf Show is that Tour Read is wrong.
Well, that was before I got into Tour Read, and that was the toe up the backside to actually make me commit to doing something. So anyway, time will tell if Tour Read helps. All I'll say is I played a comp round without giving too much away on the weekend, because we'll talk about it in a future episode. I hit 36 putts for the round. So let's just say that Tour Read
is wrong. Don't do Tour Read.
Was not necessarily helping me there, but anyway,
it's those calculations. I'm telling you, it's the calculations. They just get in
your head. Yeah. Ball striking was good, but putting let me down. Anyway, I'm mindful of time though, Joe. Yeah. We've kept you from the family for a bit over an hour now, and we absolutely massively appreciate it. It's been an awesome chat.
Yeah, it's been great.
I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on the show. It's been fantastic. Hopefully we can do this again.
Yeah, we would love to. Before we let you go, just tell the pilgrims, our listeners are pilgrims, right? Because this is a pilgrimage to better golf. We're searching for the missing links. Tell the pilgrims where they can find you. Where do they go to find all the great stuff that Joe Lagowski's putting out there in the golf world?
Yeah, so on YouTube, Joe Lagowski Golf is the YouTube channel. Also, I've got a Facebook group. So again, it's just Joe Lagowski Golf. A really, really good community on Facebook. There's, I think, around 3,000 people now, members on Facebook. It's a safe space. You can ask any question. You're not going to get told to use the search function. You can ask as many questions as you want. It's a safe space. Jump on there, and everyone's welcome.
You may notice the Missing Links Golf Show Facebook page just signed up as a follower of Joe Lagowski as well. So keep your eyes out for that.
Nice. I'll make sure I accept that request.
Excellent.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and look, pilgrims, as I said at the start, I'm an avid watcher of Joe's content. Get onto his YouTube, get onto the Facebook, because it's quality content, and it's highly recommended.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
And we'll be hitting you up for a round of golf soon, hopefully outdoors.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Stops. Yeah,
that sounds good.
All right, Andy Walker, anything else for Joe before we let him go and enjoy time with his family?
No, I think that's great. Appreciate your time, Joe. Looking forward to catching up again soon.
Amazing.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
Thanks, mate. Andy Walker, how good was that? How good's
that
Joe?
Was awesome. Loved it. And just the knowledge that Joe has about tech and the equipment, and the fact that, like, we actually spoke to a number 2 in the world in something. In fact, I think Josh Nichols was he number 2 in the world?
He got to number 2.
So this
mid-amateur
is
status.
Yeah, this is the second number 2 in the world that we've spoken to. That's pretty cool.
So Joe was the number two.
He was the number 2.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, something like that.
No, amazing. But he's still a very real chance of getting to number 1 at some point. So we'll definitely be celebrating that one with him when that day comes. But no, I mean, look, I learned a lot about setup of home training devices and high performance centers. And I'm sure for, hopefully all of you pilgrims out there listening along would have got a few good tips to take away and a few lessons learned. And I think the big
Yeah.
one was don't skimp on your infrastructure setup of
Yeah.
screen and
Yeah.
hitting that.
Yeah. And I think that's big. I think that those
We've
elements.
both made that mistake.
Yeah, yeah, and I've just got a very cheap, and you're the same, just a
Yeah.
hitting net that
Yep.
isn't actually tall enough to,
Yep.
for the 58 or the 56 as you've got. So I've got to use 54s the most that I can use, and even my 50 degree, I can't hit a full wedge with my 50
No.
degree. So I think that yeah, the golf enclosure is something I'll be looking at very closely. And then going with a camera based launch monitor, which I think is going to be work a lot better than a radar based in my environment.
May as well just go to ceiling, the ceiling
I'd
mount.
love to go the
Go the
Pro
Pro T.
TVX. Yeah, that would be awesome. But
Yeah.
somehow I don't think my budget's going to allow that. So I may have to start off with the square launch monitor and then upgrade from there. As we were talking about, like you upgrade your tech, get the base,
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
upgrade your tech.
Yeah. And prices on these things are only going to come down
Yeah.
as time goes by. But Andy Walker, it's been an episode.
Oh, it's been a lot of fun.
Mm.
Loved it. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Love the tech and love where tech's going with golf. And the fact that you can come home after a day's work and you don't actually need to go to the golf course. You can actually wander into your garage or your home sim, your basement, and have a round of golf. That's
Oh,
just awesome. I
it's
love
very
that.
cool. Yeah. Come home, leave the car in the driveway, go hit balls in the garage. It's perfect.
Exactly. Exactly what you're after.
It's perfect. Very good. All right, Andy Walker. It's that's probably about it for
That is.
this episode, and do it all again next week, I guess. But in the interim, what should people do?
Rock out, pilgrims.